Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for yet another Film Fanatic Odyssey. So I hope everyone's doing good. So yeah, today is on a special show on a movie I've actually been wanting to get to for quite some time. I know it's something I say a lot, but this movie in particular was a real integral part to for a lot of things for me. Um, I always talk about I try to tie in music with a lot of these shows, particularly around my band Quantum. So that's a big, a huge thing for me for my band Quantum. The primary kind of influence of all the information and just sheer inspiration. Most of what I'm influenced by when it comes to my band Quantum is all things film. So this movie today is really about that. But I always love to talk about other things. So and to tie it all together. But with as far as new things happening in the quantum camp in in a couple of weeks on the 21st of July, we will be Quantum will be playing at this really cool bar that just opened about probably about a year ago called Sophia. It's in Belfast, right on the main street in Belfast. It's a super cool bar. It opened, yeah, I think about a year ago, and I went in there. A friend of mine had told me about this place a while ago, and we went there for drinks, and it was very cool. I was really impressed with it. It's a tiny little bar, and I had heard that the guy who had opened the bar, this guy Luke, was a DJ who was a pretty popular, sought out DJ in the area a few years back. I had seen him play a couple times. I actually met him once, and his whole thing was he only DJs with vinyl. He's like wicked old school, but he's very good. I saw him play at this party for a restaurant that's no longer open, but they were doing like an anniversary, like I think it was a 5 year anniversary party, and he DJ'd for it, and it was really great. He played all kinds of funk and reggae, but his whole thing was he just used vinyl. And so I was told about this new bar that opened called Sophia, and a friend before I actually went to it, a different friend had said, "Well, this is there's this cool like hip bar that just opened in town, and it's run by this guy Luke, who's a DJ, and it's a really cool place to check it out." And we tried going, and schedule wise, wasn't able to go. And then fast forward a year or two, or about a year, I finally went with another friend, and we went in there for some drinks, and it was wicked cool, really cool spot, super tiny, and but just a cool vibe. It kind of felt like you were in this bar in like Brooklyn, New York, or something. So, but my first thought of going in there was like, this place would probably be too small for to see a band or to see a music event or to host a music event. But I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a super cool bar, and they had an odd schedule because they were open just a few days a week. And then fast forward to this past winter, I saw that they were doing more events there, and I saw that they were starting to have music there. So I went there with the same friend, and it was the middle of winter. I think it was in February of this year. We went there to see this full band, Becca Biggs, who is a local artist based out of Belfast, who's a rock and roll folk singer, who has this full piece band. They're pretty loud and rocking. I've been familiar with their music and her music for a while, and it's pretty cool stuff. So I went there not only to see the music, but just out of sheer curiosity, like, could they do something like this there? Because I remember talking, I know a couple of the people in that band, and they said that, you know, their initial reaction to playing in this place, to playing in Sofia, was, you know, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of impossible to have a full rock band in this tiny little shoebox of a bar. And she was like, and they were like, I don't, how we're gonna maneuver this. And so, but they were excited about it. So I went there with a friend, and it was great. It was rocking. You know, they were pretty loud, and there was a ton of people in there. It was bananas. Like, it was packed to the rafters. And she's a local draw. She's got a good name, and she's, you know, based out of Belfast, and she's got a pretty good following of local people who are into her music. But it was great, and I was really impressed with how, just the technical aspect of putting this full, you know, pretty large band in this tiny little space, and how it really worked out. And then fast forward a couple more months, I went there recently again to see another band, and I liked it even more. And during that time in between, I was like, wow, maybe I'll get, you know, maybe I can get a Quantum gig there. And so, you know, maybe we can make it work. You know, I know they've had occasional DJ things there that I had missed, and I know Luke did a DJ party there once, and I had heard it was crazy and wild. So I had dropped off one of our Quantum albums, the last album that we did, in Dreams I Saw Chapter 1. I dropped it off and went in and gave him my number. He wasn't there, but I gave it to the bartender, and didn't hear anything back. I inquired. I, you know, sent them a couple of messages and didn't hear anything back. So I was like, okay, you know, maybe something will come out of this, maybe not. So I was in there about a month ago or two, and the owner was there, and he had said that he heard the album. He did listen to it, and didn't. He had somehow lost my contact info, and but was he really liked the music, and he was really excited about having us there. So then we booked the date. So I'm very excited. That's going to be coming up the 21st of July. So we'll see how it goes. You know, we'll do a couple hours, probably 2.5 hours, and do you know, try to do our thing there and see how things go. And so looking forward to that. And there's been you know, I've been started promoting it pretty heavily. So it's a free show. So come on by. It's a super cool bar. It's you know, I think one of the coolest things right now that's happened in Belfast, as far as new developments, as far as new things to, new places to go, and also to see live music. Because these past 6 months or so, they've been doing a lot of music, so it's very, very cool. So we have that show coming up, and then we're going to be doing a radio show. We have another Quantum radio show that same weekend. That Saturday, we're going to be playing on WRFR again. We're going to do a little slot on the radio around 2 o'clock, where we will be playing live on the radio on my friend Spencer Roulard's electronic show. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot of fun. And we did a show a few months ago, or about a month ago, on his radio show. And for whatever reason, the show wasn't recorded. But I had heard that the show came out pretty good as far as the sound quality goes. So what we decided to do was to do it again, and to try to, you know, get it recorded this time, and you know, have it something, have it set up that maybe, if it does, you know, come out to be a pretty good performance, and we can get a recording of it, maybe it's something I can use to share with people, to, you know, post around, use for promotional things, because it's always great to have extra content, especially if it's, you know, pretty good quality. It's hard to find good quality videos of things, so we have a few, but it'd be nice to see some other things come out of it. So yeah, stay tuned for that. That's going to be that same weekend, and then we will also be playing at Primo, which I'm very excited about, which is an amazing restaurant. That's going to be at the end of the month. We're going to be playing there on a Sunday afternoon. So very, very excited about that. That's a place I didn't really think we could really get into, but we did, and we'll be playing like a 2 hour set there, and so that's very exciting, and it's a beautiful location. I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of gigs there the last 2 years, so very much looking forward to that. There'll be a bunch of promotion for that, and then the other thing that's coming up that I'm in process of kind of finalizing is there's another really cool bar in Camden, Maine called Lucky Betty's, and um, my buddy Andre Lescuse, who's an amazing guitar player and a really great friend, he's he started doing this music showcase at Lucky Betty's about a year ago, and basically he'll like get five or six different groups on a bill, and they'll do like either a Wednesday or a Thursday night, and he gets a lot of cool variety. Gets some folk, some rock, and it's expanded a little bit more where he's had other genres, and they've even been trying to have full bands in there because it's a tiny little space and they have noise. There's it's right in Camden, so there's noise ordinances. But we're gonna be playing there on in August on one of these showcases with Quantum. It's probably gonna be on a Thursday night. We have a tentative date. We're just waiting for the final details. But it's a very cool bar. It's an old car garage that was basically opened, was closed for a while, and then a few people bought it and turned it into this really cool little bar. So very much looking forward to that, and that will be in August, probably the second or third week of August. So that's a new thing that just came up. Once things get confirmed and as we get closer, hopefully everything works out. I'll start doing the promotional things for that, and very very excited about that show because that's a venue I've been thinking about trying to get into for a while somehow at some point. So yeah, very excited about that. So when I've talked about the origins of wanting to and my deep desire to to do electronic music when I was in this transitional period when I was playing in a bunch of bands. One band in particular I was very very busy with for a long time to where it got to the point of where that band became a full time thing, which was great in a lot of ways, but it was also all consuming. I couldn't do any other projects, and I used to play. I played for quite a few years with this band called the 220s. That was a really great band. I learned a tremendous amount with that band. It really I learned so much about the music business, but then also just it pushed me musically because the guys in the band were just really really great players, um, and but I had always had this thing on my radar, this idea that I wanted to maybe do something more original, based, and something that where it was a side project or a band of mine. But and I had experience up until that point. I had experience with two other bands of where I was in two original bands, Full Contact Kitty and Tit City, and we did all original music. And but I had stopped doing that kind of thing for a while, and I was very busy with this one band in particular, the 220s. And so things shifted and changed, and then I was kind of out of not in that band anymore. But ever since I was a kid, and I've always said before, I love all kinds of music, but electronic music's always been my favorite style. So, and even, and I've talked about it before, like the first band I got into that was electronic was Depeche Mode. And it was the album Violator that was the album for me that got me into and introduced me to electronic music, first and foremost. And then from there, I got into all kinds of other electronic artists. My favorite group of all time, Autechre. But I was exposed me, eventually got into house music, all kinds of stuff. And and realized over the years as I got more and more into electronic music, I realized how broad that term is, and just how many more or less subgenres exist underneath that kind of banner. But that was the moment, and I remember even as a kid when I got into them, I had this like kind of weird, almost automatic, deep yearning to like someday, you know, be in an electronic group to some capacity or something. Even when I had, not that I know anything now, but even back then when I was a little kid and I had no clue as to how to do it or what I wanted to do or any of those things. But again, it was something I always thought about, and over the years as I got older, it was always something I was thinking about more and more. And then I was like, now I can't. I don't know how I can do this. Like, how could I? I was so used to being in a band, a typical band kind of setting or dynamic that the idea of me breaking away and me being the front person by myself just seemed, impossible. But at the same time, I had this yearning over the years that was just driving me more and more, probably even more on a subconscious level to try to pursue something like that. And I had during when I was with the 220s, I went through these phases where I was writing music, so I was starting to kind of go back into that space of writing my own music, taking some chances. I recorded an album. I started a little record label, Berenice Records. I released an album on the little label that we have of all instrumental rock music that also had a very electronica kind of vibe to it. And I was starting to slowly gain a little bit of confidence in that idea or that concept. And then I was not in that project anymore. And so suddenly I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. But I still didn't have the confidence to kind of take that leap of faith, if you want to call it that. And again, at that time, I was also very, very much into film. Films were a huge inspiration for both of those bands I mentioned before, Full Contact Kitty and Tit City. Um, a real integral part to the core, like, kind of inspiration for those projects, as well as bands and things like that. But when that happened and that transition happened, and suddenly I had this open schedule, I basically had nothing to do. I had no other projects, no commitments, just basically open range. So I was like, okay, I got to do something, but I don't know how to do it. But maybe I'll take the steps, and I didn't have the confidence to do it. But this is all tied to movies. I remember during that time I had just seen the it had just come out, David Fincher's Social Network. I had always been a huge David Fincher fan. I still am. He's one of my favorite directors. Seven, Zodiac, Fight Club, so many amazing movies. So many amazing movies. Just one of the most, I think, important directors of our time. And so I was, really into his films, and he had just come out with a movie called Social Network, which is basically a film about the emergence of Facebook. And I remember when I first saw that movie, I was totally blown away by it. The thing that was the the craziest aspect of it that really in just really blew me away was that the music was composed by and performed by Atticus Roth, Atticus Ross, and Trent Reznor. Trent Reznor, of course, from Nine Inch Nails. I've always been a huge Nine Inch Nails fan for years and still am. And years before he got into doing soundtrack stuff, he started this other project called Ghosts. And Ghosts is a really awesome project that he started, and it's basically more or less kind of instrumental versions of his kind of way of composing music. And it has a very soundtrack vibe to it, or film score vibe. And I really, really love that stuff. I almost took to that style even more than his records. I found myself loving that stuff. I got really into it. And then when I saw that he composed the music for Social Network, it just catapulted my love of what he was doing, and and the music that he did for that film was just incredible. Just one of the best film scores ever. And it was so new and fresh and different, and then that was a huge motivating factor for like Quantum. And then when around that same time there was this newer, at the time it was new, movie that had just come out, and that was Drive, starring Ryan Gosling. And I was totally blown away by this movie. I've always loved Ryan Gosling, and I was just like, this movie is just amazing. And in particular, the soundtrack, the music, the score, very electronic influence. That was my green light. When I After I saw this movie, after I had seen Social Network, uh, this was the film, and both of those films together, those were the motivating factors for me to just go for it and to start this wacky thing called Quantum. And that's what happened. After I saw this movie, I was like, this is it. I need to do this. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it. I don't know what it's going to actually sound like, but I know now I have enough confidence to at least try it and do it and see if it works. And so that was the key point. And it was mainly based on not only just loving this film, but the music was great. All this really great electro music, that's on, that is a part of the soundtrack. And this movie is just amazing. This movie also really introduced me to, yet again, another incredible director, Nicolas Winding Refn, who is, again, I think, just an amazing director. He's made so many great movies throughout his career. Huge fan of his work. Drive, this came out in 2011. The Neon Demon in 2016. Only God Forgives in 2013. Pusher in 1996. Copenhagen Cowboy, which is, I guess, a TV show that came out this year. Another movie he did that is just amazing called Bronson, 2008. Probably the best movie he's ever done, with that stars Mads Mikkelsen, Valhalla Rising, and that came out in 2009. I saw that movie a few years ago for the first time, and again, Drive was the first Nicholas Refn movie I had seen, and Valhalla Rising is just a masterpiece, pure masterpiece. It's like a Viking saga on acid. Amazing. Mikkelsen is just on fire, and that movie is a transcending experience. And that's easily my favorite film of his. But Drive was my first film that I saw, in his career, of any of his films, and I was just completely blown away by it. It's got so much emotion to it. Great car chase scenes. It's brutal as all hell, but it's got a lot of passion behind it, and it's a really great story. And it was so unique and so fresh. It had just this real amazing thing of how it created this really interesting universe. It was like a heightened reality, all set in L.A. Just an amazing movie. So much tension throughout the whole movie. Great characters, a great love story, even. So many great factors. Basically, all the factors um, that make up, a classic movie. And Nicholas Winding Refn, he's a Danish film director and screenwriter and producer. He's done, all kinds of different work. Yeah, of course, worked with Tom Hardy, an amazing director, and he was the star of Bronson, and also Mads Mikkelsen, who is, just an iconic actor. He's so awesome, and he's worked a few times with Ryan Gosling, but just an amazing visionary, truly a visionary director, I think. And the cast for Drive is just awesome. Ryan Gosling, of course. Carey Mulligan, it was my first film I had ever seen her in, and she's gone on to make a lot of great movies. She's awesome in this movie. Bryan Cranston, of course, from Breaking Bad, is just fabulous in this movie. Oscar Isaac is in this movie. He plays a small role, but he's so awesome in it. Christine Hendricks is fabulous in this movie. She was in Mad Men, the TV show with John Hamm. Albert Brooks, the famous comedian, he plays like this mafia boss, uh, this crime syndicate guy. He's so great in it. He's just so amazing. He's pretty much my favorite character in a movie. And of course, Ron Perlman, a great, awesome character actor. He's really good in it too. Um, but again, the film score, the music, the whole all the aesthetics around this film are just totally captivating. And I don't own Drive on Blu-ray, unfortunately. This would be definitely a. I don't own many. I don't have many of his films, Nicolas Refn's films, on DVD or Blu-ray. I've seen most of them. I'm not sure why that is. I need to buy them, especially Valhalla Rising, and I need to get Drive on Blu-ray also, because visually it's. I feel like Nicolas Refn as a director is he has a very kind of avant-garde. Obviously he's European, but so his films have a very slow pace to them. It has a very European kind of sense, but his films are also incredibly dark, very twisted, and they push the envelope. Very violent, very very violent. There's some scenes in Drive that are just like shocking. The elevator scene in particular. But amazing, amazing. Just high, like it's like a high octane thriller of a movie. It just totally delivers the goods. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about him. Um, Nicholas Refn was very much influenced by really great directors too, and a wide range of directors. I feel like some of his work. There's a lot of great interviews with him on YouTube, but in particular, there's a really great interview where he interviews Nicholas Refn interviews William Friedkin, and then there's another interview with him where he interviews Kenneth Anger, who just recently passed away, and it really gives you it's an eye op those are the both of those interviews are very eye opening, because you really see how those two very different directors influenced his work. William Friedkin, of course, the director of The Exorcist, The French Connection, so many great movies in the 70s. Just a powerhouse of a director. Really gritty, just really intense movies. But, amazing. And then also Kenneth Anger, who recently just passed, but he was a very experimental avant-garde artist, and he made these art films, Lucifer Rising, all kinds of really experimental films that are very very much influenced by the occult, but visually and with the sound design in a lot of his films, just so engaging and really rich with this kind of deep beauty. And so Nicholas Refn was very much influenced by both of these directors as well as other directors. But when I checked out those videos of him, I was like, wow, okay, I can see where he's like, all these different directors that he's influenced by, and because he's got such a unique style. So highly recommend checking those out, because they're both on YouTube. But Drive, amazing movie. This was my introduction to his amazing body of work. And again, I've always been a big Ryan Gosling fan, and I think that this is one of his best roles. So definitely check it out. So this is Jason Dean. Thanks again for and also welcome aboard some of the new subscribers. Thanks again for the support. A lot of folks have been commenting on these videos, and I really appreciate the love. So we will see you next time. Peace.